Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Leaders Give Back, the Engage FI podcast where experience meets the future of financial services. I'm Virginia Hayburn, Director of Research, Insights, and Advocacy at Engage FI. We know that your time is valuable, so thank you so much for listening in. We have a terrific conversation lined up for you today. Credit unions are at a pivotal moment. They're called to modernize. They're called to scale their impact and also deepen member relationships while staying true to the people-first mission that defines the movement. And the future of the credit union movement will be shaped by the choices that leaders make now, how they invest in efficiency, how they empower smaller institutions, and how they will build lasting relevance with the next generation of members. There is a lot to do to get future ready. And to have this important conversation, I'm joined by two strong industry voices that are trusted and respected across the financial services industry. Troy Stang serves as President and Chief Executive Officer of the Go West Credit Union Association, the regional trade association representing nearly 300 credit unions across Arizona, Colorado, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, and Wyoming. And Gene Pelham is the former president and CEO of Rogue Credit Union in Oregon. He's now an executive affiliate with Engage FI. Gene has been on the podcast many times. You've probably seen and heard him, and he just loves sharing his experiences and advice with a new generation of credit union leaders. Now, on top of this, Troy and Gene have known each other for a really long time, and that history shows. They're insightful, they're fun, and it just makes for a really great conversation. I really hope you enjoy it. Troy, welcome. Let's start with you.
Well, good morning, and thank you for the invitation to join you this morning.
Thank you. Tell our listeners a little about yourself, your role and your mission at Go West Credit Union Association, and then what's really capturing your attention in the credit union movement right now.
Well, thank you. And in your introduction, you mentioned I'm the executive of the trade association representing many credit unions in Western states. To be exact, it's nearly 300 credit unions serving about 20 million consumers and small businesses. And what's really unique about those credit unions and the markets that these credit unions serve is in some of the corners of this geography, upwards to 80% of the marketplace chooses credit unions as their primary financial institution. And so that's some of the heaviest penetration anywhere in our nation. And I'm no stranger to credit unions. I got my early start working the operational side of credit unions for the first half of my career, and it took a little detour into public policy, and it was a real honor to be able to come back and lead a trade association. You mentioned Gene and I's relationship. At the time that I started in the trade association space, originally in Oregon, Gene happened to be the chair of the board. And so he and a number of colleagues really were looking for something different. And I was so excited. The opportunity allowed me the intersection between the operational knowledge of credit unions, the time in public policy, and the steadfast passion of ensuring that the credit union's voice gets heard in every public policy circle that you could possibly imagine. And you can't change the hearts and minds of public policy officials unless they know who credit unions are. And so a lot of our work in the trade association space is to do exactly what you mentioned, and that is ensure credit unions are relevant. But part of that starts with ensuring that the public policy environment that they operate in provide all the authorities and opportunities to stay relevant in the next generation.
That's wonderful. And Troy, we're going to talk, I know, a whole lot more about the work that you're doing. But first, Gene, for those of our listeners who may not know you yet, give us a little bit of your background from your time leading Rogue Credit Union, but also to the work that you're doing now to support credit unions across the country.
Well, thank you, Virginia, and it's so excited to be joined with Troy today. We do go way back, and I go way back in the financial services industry, from an opportunity for a scholarship in high school. My first day off the bus after my senior trip was working in a banking institution. I was there for 8 years, and then found credit unions and have spent my entire career in credit unions, including 18 years at Rogue Credit Union, 15 years as a CEO, helping the credit union grow from a small community-based financial institution of $300 million to a regional institution of over $3 billion. So it was an incredible run during that time. But part of that incredible run was because I was involved with the association and involved with really great people. And like Troy said, it was a really fun time being on the board, hiring a new executive. I actually sat on the selection committee for Troy when he was selected to be the CEO, and then his chair, and then we jumped right in to seeking a partnership with the Washington Credit Union League. And so Troy and I have been joined together at critical points, whether it was the new role at the association, the merger with the Washington Credit Union Association, to even him calling on me to be the chair of the Go West Foundation as we partnered with the Mountain West Credit Union Association Foundation. So I stand to think and hope to think that Troy has seen me as a valuable partner in helping accomplish all that he wants to do, and he's always challenged me to be the best that I can be.
I love that. And great minds think alike, but they also challenge each other to think differently. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Troy, I've heard you talk often about measuring success in terms of total return to members, and that's always resonated with me. What does that really mean, and how can credit unions today think differently about measuring their true impact?
I will use the analogy that Gene started to use as part of his introduction, and that was the bus. I had several bus stops during my journey, and the first credit union I worked for happened to be a credit union that my grandfather founded back in the 90s and in the center part of Minnesota. And that credit union, during the 7 years I spent there, it was on this relentless journey to ensure it understood who its members were and understood it was delivering value day in and day out in the way that the members defined. If your listeners know at all about central Minnesota, you know it's a very agricultural intense community and region of our nation. And financial services from organizations who truly understand the member or understand the customer don't come easy. And so having a local cooperative was really the DNA that was necessary to ensure the farm families, and the agribusinesses that existed in that environment and truly were the financial institutions serving them were truly accountable to them. Now, I mentioned I took a little hiatus or a bus stop in public policy in the halls of the U.S. Treasury as a senior advisor to the Treasury Secretary. As a little history nut, I kind of dug into some of the discussions that took place back in the 1930s when the credit union charter was first introduced here in our nation. And the discussion amongst public policy, and keep in mind, this was at a time and place when access to capital did not come easy for Main Street America. It was a day and time where the only type of banking charter was a national charter, and people weren't seen or heard. The introduction of cooperative finance came from Europe. And here's the key point, as public policy put the finishing touches on our charter, our license to do business, they said these cooperatives need to generate a value proposition by the good and the whole of the members working together and be able to deliver it back to their memberships. That's the whole intent of the structure of a cooperative. And as long as we do that, generation after generation, decade after decade, we will continue to be able to turn to public policy and say, these cooperative charters are exactly doing what they were intended to do. So bus stop that I'm at right now, leading an association, I challenge our business partners and our credit unions to A, not lose sight of the fact that we're cooperatives, but B, to squeeze that juice out of the charter, out of the organizational framework that they've been given the opportunity to be stewards of, to ensure that the membership as a whole is able to ascertain true value in their wallets day in and day out. That value proposition, that is something that each credit union is obligated to tell its members and demonstrate to its members. And in our role as the association, it's something that we need to shine the light on. And so we've done that in a multitude of different ways, whether economic reports or data collection from our credit unions. And every time we take that collective work to a public policy leader or a group of leaders, they understand It is a unique form of financial services that is so deeply rooted in the communities and the memberships that have chartered these and are stewards of these entities. So that's Troy's soapbox, if you will, about value. It's a constant chase. And I think as a business partner, your organization helps credit unions find those efficiencies, the ability to deliver more value to its members, and stay relevant in the marketplace.
That's absolutely right, Troy. And I just love the way you said it. And the soapbox is a good thing. I think it's an important soapbox because amid all of the challenges that credit unions face, the new technologies that they have to become fluent in, and of course, this competition, they always have to remember who they are, right? New strategies, yes, but remember who you are and the value that you can give to members. And Jean, I wanted to go over to you from a CEO's perspective. You've really lived this. I've heard you talk about this so often. How did you think about measuring success at Rogue Credit Union in a way that truly reflected value back to members?
Well, and I think that is the key term right there, the value back to the members. That is the unique gift that we've been given that Troy talked about, is that we're not profit-driven organizations. We're margin-driven organizations so that we can create greater value and greater impact for our members. And I think sometimes as we get distracted by earnings numbers and regulatory pressures and so on, maybe sometimes we have a tendency to lose sight of that. But the more that we can stay focused on the value and the ability to create financial self-determination for our members, the better organizations we are and the faster we grow. And so when I look at measuring organizational success, I look at what's the impact. We use Net Promoter Score as kind of a measurement, but even more so is member growth. And member growth is a true indicator of relevance for members today. And it really comes from two perspectives, not only new members, but retaining the members that you have. Are we creating a member resiliency? Are we moving our members from customers to owners? Do they have a stake in the credit union? And if we're treating them just like another customer as a profit center, then they don't have a stake in the credit union. But when we truly understand our mission, our purpose, our sole driving factor is to help our members live better lives and make our communities better, then we measure the true value of what the credit unions can do. And as Troy talked about, the gift that we've been charged with delivering upon, and we cannot forget each and every day that responsibility to take advantage of the gift that we have in our hands as leaders of credit unions.
And you really, Jean, got to something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and that's it's primacy, right? It's really being the primary financial institution, the primary financial partner for a member throughout their lives as their needs change. Of course, the credit union can adapt and help that member grow. And to be able to accomplish that in today's world of technology sophistication and investments that clearly will need to be made, there's this big conversation about operating model efficiency. And I do want to ask both of you this. Troy, I'll start with you. Why is efficiency more important than ever for credit unions right now? What's driving that urgency?
Yeah, let's link this back to your earlier comment. First, that there's been no other time than now that this chase and this race is on. I argue that it's been on all the time since we stood these cooperatives up in our nation. What's different today is the changing landscape of financial services and the changing expectation of the consumer, the users of financial services. And you'll see, it's no secret, you've got the fintechs and every other sort of point of purchase, buy now, pay later, point of entry into financial services. You've got the banking, for-profit environment changing rapidly, where investors and legacy organizations want to get out. They don't have the next generation leadership. They're rolling it up to regionally owned or nationally owned institutions, creating scale that way. That appreciation that I think we have in the credit union space is, with all that changing, our DNA and our uniqueness of being member-owned cooperatives is a value proposition unlike none other. Because those sexy apps and other financial services providers are not worried about what's happening over on Main Street. The health of the community, the heartbeat of the community. And it is so critically important that we leverage our DNA to find those efficiencies, ensure that we can be relevant, deliver those products and services, but never, ever lose sight on our memberships. And the beautiful thing is, we don't need regulation to tell us to do that. It is fundamentally woven in our DNA and because of our structure.
Jean, how do you think about this topic of efficiency?
I would once again go back to impact. Efficiency is critical, but it should only be critical from the perspective of how much value are you able to return to your members. I've been in organizations that have focused on efficiency and cut out paper cups, and then realized that they had people spending more time washing coffee cups than they did with the paper cups. And so I think that's the challenge that we see, is we all have different definitions of efficiency based on our backgrounds and so on, whether it's cutting costs or creating greater opportunity to serve our members. We've got great opportunities. I know we'll probably talk about this, but our artificial intelligence gives us the opportunity to create efficiency if used well, but hopefully it creates that efficiency to focus more on the individual needs of our members. I think Troy touched on it well from the perspective is that we have a very clear opportunity and a very clear responsibility to be the place of truth for members and community members today as a financial institution. There are so many organizations that focus on bottom line creating value. And sometimes that's at the expense of the customer, where we have this opportunity to be the place of truth, delivering real value, real impact on a regular basis. So we need efficiency, but we need that efficiency to drive a greater commitment to what our members need each and every day. Because as Troy mentioned, on Main Street, it's different. And even as leaders of financial institutions, we don't live the lives that the majority of our members live. And so understanding the life that they live, the challenges they face each and every day, the value of, yes, we have the technology sets that create incredible convenience, but the value of having a location that's an urgent care center or a place of truth for a member that's struggling on a particular issue as we go forward. So I'm all over efficiency is important. The challenge with efficiency is people define it so many different ways. And so let's make sure we're creating efficiency to fuel that margin to serve our members better.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Did you have something to add to that?
I did. My role, I bounce around a lot between state capitals and different advocacy environments, but I also spend time in the field, in the communities credit unions serve, watching and seeing and assessing as they tell their story to their members and their communities. And that journey of travel caused me to fly into a metro area, spend an overnight in a metro area hotel, and then be in a car the next day. And the contrasting experience of when I flipped the TV on in the hotel room, seeing some of those today's financial services providers, some of the fintechs and what have you, on their apps and their messaging, to the contrast of sitting in a car, driving hundreds of miles across America, and recognizing, to Jean's point, the real lives that our people and our communities are made up of. And it just struck me so directly that the ad that I saw the night before does not have a pulse on what's going on in the communities from an economic development perspective. Who are the major employers? What are the issues that community is dealing with? Where does that access to capital really need to get deployed to allow people to have better financial lives and to be self-sustainable in our communities? And that is a key virtue of who we are. And when credit unions are efficient, are relevant, grow their membership, deliver value to their memberships day in and day out, they can also do good in the community. And Jean, I remember you always saying, the mission does dictate and does require margin to be made. And so you've got to have efficient organizations. We are so gifted with the type of charter we have to be able to put that care and concern not only into our memberships, but also creating the economic empowerment needed for our communities across America.
Well, I just kind of, because it's just so important to me, it's one of the things that I preach on a regular basis, and Troy hit it, is what I call a win to the fourth power. If we take care of our employees, they take care of our members. And if our members are taken care of well, then the credit union does well financially. And when the credit union does well financially, we can contribute more to our members and our community. And so this wind of the fourth power is that it just magnifies itself. Each time that we do good, we get to do better, even more. And so that's the really cool part. I thank Troy for reminding me of that as we go forward, thinking about that circle of impact that we have and our responsibility to deliver upon it.
Yes, and it's a responsibility also to support the small credit unions as well. And Troy, I wanted to ask you about this because I found it just so encouraging. Go West recently launched a small credit union accelerator focused on institutions under $250 million in assets. Tell us about it. What problem are you looking to solve with this initiative?
Yeah, the whole theme of this podcast is about delivering real tangible value to the members of these cooperatives. We do recognize there's a bit of the products and services that we deliver are a commodity, right? A commoditized business. And so there is value in scale, but this linkage to the membership and the communities. What we're creating in Go West with the Small Credit Union Accelerator is really an intersection to really match up the time, talent, and treasures of those credit unions and system partners, business partners who are enabling credit unions to find more efficiencies, to add more value to their members, and kind of a matchup, a meetup, if you will. There is one of our principles in the cooperative space is cooperation amongst cooperatives. And this accelerator is that intersection that allows credit unions who have those resources to help those with a hand up to those who are willing and interested in redefining themselves for the future.
Gene, I know this is a passion for you. We've talked about this a bunch, just learning from you how you're supporting these smaller credit unions. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the recent work that you've done? What are the biggest challenges that these small credit unions are facing in your view?
Yeah. It was a unique opportunity. I remember as we were growing as an organization, we sought out the perspective of a much larger credit union to help us guide us in some of the decisions that we made. And it was incredibly valuable. And so while I retired early at 62, I wasn't retired. I just chose to repurpose in a different way. And Troy's been very helpful in helping me find opportunities to help others with that. But one of the biggest challenges I see right now, especially in smaller credit unions, is the amount of time they have to spend running the business and the lack of time they can focus on building the business as they go forward. Regulatory, technology changes, all of those different things make it very, very difficult. And with limited budgets affording the expertise to be able to do that. I think probably the answer and what I've been working with smaller credit unions on is, first of all, strategic clarity, understanding that we're not Bank of America. We never will be Bank of America. They do a great thing, but we can do something better because we can be closer, more intimate, more direct in the service of the communities that we serve. So I think that is very important. So strategic clarity, but then strategic discipline. There are so many winds blowing at them on a regular basis. It's hard to stay focused because they have to go back to running the business instead of building it. And so I think those are the two key parts, but also this transition from a governance perspective. We've had boards that have been very, very successful in kind of directing and being hands-on in the leadership of their organizations, and they have to transition to a governance role, a strategy role, a guardrail role, and allow the CEOs to make the important decisions. Being a CEO today, I think, is probably one of the toughest jobs out there. It looks easy from the outside, but it's incredibly difficult from the inside. I think I've seen that even more so being on the outside now. And so giving boards and CEOs the opportunity to work together, but in the right place with clarity and discipline, and we can help these organizations be what they need to be for the communities they serve.
And be future ready as well. You had mentioned it, Gene, this conversation around artificial intelligence. This is a tall order for any financial institution, let alone a smaller financial institution that has some constraints when it comes to budgets and time and resources. How do you think about innovation for credit unions broadly, but smaller credit unions specifically? What are the real outcomes that they should be targeting with things like data strategy, innovation, artificial intelligence, automation of sort of the modern variety?
Well, I believe there's incredible value in the ability for small organizations to compete at a higher level can be provide with some of the technology, the artificial intelligence out there. But before we ever attempt that, we have to have governance. We have to understand what we'll use it for, what we won't use it for, how we continue to make sure that we make the decisions that are informed. We can gather a lot of information, but it's still, we have to make informed decisions. I recently was working on a project and asked the AI agent to kind of question my question about the value of AI. And it was very, very clear to me that said, hey, we do a lot of good things, but we don't make the final decision. And sometimes we have bias. So please make sure that you stay control and keep control of the governance of how you use artificial intelligence and technology to move forward in your organization. When used well, it's pretty incredible what can happen, especially I know what's happening in larger institutions, but the power that it can and the competitive advantage that it can give small credit unions is critically important at a time that they need it more so that they can focus on building their business.
Troy, what are you hearing from members, from your constituency?
All things that we've talked about, and our smallest credit unions oftentimes are the most nimblest institutions and can get to the market need faster than the larger institutions. So you couple that need and the skill set, the resource pool that is or isn't available with the value proposition of being close to the members and nimble. And I think it's a very, very relevant and powerfully innovative tool set to allow the credit unions to get to their market need quicker.
We have to be master mechanics. I think Troy using the term tool set is we have to be master mechanics of the tools that were provided. And that's what I think we're all learning how to do, is to master the use of the tools that we now have the advantage of.
And I'm always impressed, in having conversations with credit union CEOs, just how fluent they are in these modern technologies. It's so encouraging. And Troy, you said it so well. Sometimes the most innovative financial institutions are credit unions, smaller credit unions. So that's something that makes me feel very optimistic about the future. I wanted your opinion on another topic. I often hear that attracting young members is becoming a major issue for credit unions. It's a big problem for banks too, but apparently, for credit unions, this is really something that is just a major, major priority. Why is this perceived as a challenge for credit unions? What do they need to do differently to remain relevant to this next generation?
I want to start here by saying, to understand our challenges today, you need to look through the rearview mirror and understand where we came from. And I referenced the first credit union I worked for, and it was a select group of people, an audience that they came together, locked arms, and created and delivered these financial services through this cooperative. Generations have gone by. And we've had to learn how to be more humble and more boastful all at the same time to really punch through the noise. And so what I'm getting at here is storytelling. In one of our public policy settings, just within the last 45 days, we came in with a group of credit unions, and these public policy officials who didn't and don't have a lot of exposure to financial services. Keep in mind, 20-30% of any state legislative body or even Congress turns over in every election. And so we're constantly in this journey of re-educating or educating from square one, a new set of policy officials. More and more, however, most of the elected officials have already met a credit union along their personal journey. Here's the reflection this new audience of public policy officials said: when I think of all the choices in financial services today, all those different varieties that we talked about earlier in this podcast, I see credit unions as more organic, closer with a pulse on the consumer and the market needs, and kind of hip and organic in the sense of you can navigate with the same pace and journey that your membership is going through. And I thought that is interesting. Here we are thinking that we need to punch through the noise and say, here's who we are, and we do. But there's a segment of public policy that understands, surely because of our structure, being not-for-profit cooperatives, they're going to be tighter and closer to the needs, ears to the ground of their marketplace. And so I share that because then I think the onus is on us. The leaders, the operators of the individual credit unions and the system organizations like Go West to ensure that story is told loud and clear, far and wide. What is it that a credit union can do? Because there's still, I bragged about earlier, 80%, some of our areas, geographies are members of credit unions. That means there's 20% of the population in those areas that have never met a credit union yet. And we've got areas in the marketplace that as little as 20%, only 20% are members of credit unions. And we've got to do more to be able to tell our story.
Jean, do you want to add to that? And I want to ask you a question as you think about your response there. I'm wondering about product innovation. So when we think about reaching young members, they have completely different needs, right? They're loaded up with student debt. Housing affordability is a big issue for them. They work differently than other generations. What do credit unions need to do from the perspective of product innovation to really reach these young people and keep them as members?
Well, I have lots of thoughts on that, but I think I want to go back to, because Troy kind of mentioned it, but I started in the financial services in 1978. Yes, I know that makes me old. But we have been talking about attracting younger members, younger clients, that entire period of time. There's always this generation transfer and so on. And it's just been this constant battle. So I don't think the challenge of attracting young members is new, but the risk of losing them is heightened more than it has ever been before. And I think it's because we are still trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And what we've got to do is we've got to find a bunch of round different places to plug people in. The consumer, especially the younger consumer today, is so used to be able to having access to a trusted voice, which is their parents or someone clear in their family line. I think about the number of conversations that happen in the van on the way to the soccer game, and those trusted adult relationships that are built there to the relationships at the credit union. And I go back to my previous term of being the place of truth. And that is a place where our members can come and get information that is valued and trusted and they know is in their best interest. They're in an environment, a sales-rich environment. Everything they do on social media is product placement, is this, is that. And so I think that they're challenged to find what's real and what's not. And I think we have, as the credit union, the opportunity to be real. And what does that mean? That means having people in branches that can sit down and help them going forward, but also looking at tools, whether they're agents or whatever, that can kind of be the Alexa and Siri for their financial services, and can also kind of call them on their stuff at times too, in saying, no, wait a minute, do you really want to spend that much money on this when you've got this goal going forward? We need those kind of tools, and I think we'll get better at building them going forward. I'll share a little bit of insight on me. I've been working on a diet specific to some of the issues I'm facing, and challenge the artificial intelligence tool to keep me on track. And so it does. It says, you shouldn't have had that. Consider this next time. And we need those kind of tools for our younger generation. And that's trusted with the right governance that's driving to improve their lives, not make money off of them. We will make money off of them if they trust us, if they want to do business, if they refer their friends, they bring their family members, they see us as the place of truth, then our financial futures are guaranteed.
It's no secret. There's a lot of headlines And the environment today talks about affordability a lot, whether it's the first home, whether it's transportation, whether it's the global or national economy, labor. I mean, there's plenty of sources of headlines coming in and making the consumer and Main Street America concerned about affordability. And hearing and assessing that environment, we fundamentally, as a trade association, fundamentally evolved our message to position credit unions as the best source for affordability guidance and solutions because of our not-for-profit cooperative nature, which frankly brought us back 100 years to why the heck we were even introduced in this nation and still relevant today. When you don't have to chase a bottom line profitability for a stockholder, but rather have a not-for-profit cooperative natured institution that's able to do what's in the best interest of the consumer. And Gene just mentioned it. Sometimes saying not now, not so much, or no on a loan request is the best gift you can give that consumer. And that happens each and every day in a credit union because we're not having to chase those corporate profits. But everything we've talked about in this podcast, you can only do that when you run the most efficient financial cooperatives that everybody's on the chase to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, one thing that's really struck me in our conversation with both of you is how the human side has come out almost each and every time you've made a comment. And that's really the hallmark of the credit union movement. We talk about efficiency, we talk about technology, but credit unions have always stood for the human side of financial services. How do we, as the industry evolves, how do we make sure that we continue building credit unions that are deeply human-centered for both members and employees? And I'll start with you, Troy.
It's the sheer nature of who we are. When you start with the cooperative structure, that DNA, that first line of accountability is to the members and the memberships. I wish there was a day that we didn't sit and brag or compare our results based on asset size or what have you, that it was totally based on total return to the member as the individual credit union defines. And I think that's so critically important. And it's in there. It's in there in our DNA, and it's in there in what we do. And the master class, the chase to ensure everything, all the pieces of the gears are in the right place is a real thing in our institutions.
And final thoughts?
I believe that we have, as I mentioned earlier, an incredible gift, but also an incredible responsibility, and that is to make sure that we do understand what our communities need, what our members need, and leverage the skills and the charter that we have to effectively live that mission each and every day and to make the meaningful difference. And so I challenge leaders is let's not make decisions from 30,000 feet. Yes, we've gathered a lot of information, but be on the street, boots on the ground, understand. For the longest time, even though my team didn't really want me to do it, I accepted emails from members through Ask Gene at Rogue CU. And so I really got a sense of what our members was facing each and every day. A carload of kids on the way home from Disneyland at midnight at a gas station with a debit card not working. We don't hear about those things unless we're involved with that frontline information, but that's what our members are living each and every day. And so the unique opportunity we have is we have the technology, we have the resources, we have the charter, and now the winners, and you're seeing them all over the place, are delivering upon that member promise each and every day. And I've got great examples as I've retired from Rogue and I've become a little bit more of a free agent from a member perspective, get a chance to deal with the credit unions in the different markets that I'm working with. And it's great to see other organizations that stand up and deliver on their member promise each and every day like Rogue did. It's really heartwarming for me to experience that firsthand. And it's not a size issue. From the very largest credit unions to the very smallest, those that are focused with the right mission and vision-driven mindset are the ones that are winning each and every day. And so I challenge credit unions, if you're not winning, take a look about how your members are benefiting from their membership with you. And if they're not benefiting fully, then find a way to help them benefit more. And you will drive the success of your organization. And it's also great to have incredible partners like Troy and the Go West Association to pave the way for us in many of those things. They work incredibly hard to pave the way and work on regulatory issues. And we have to respect all that work by delivering upon the promise each and every day.
That's a fantastic final comment. Thank you so much, Gene. Troy, I have to thank you. You're a busy man. You're doing a lot of work on behalf of the credit union movement. Thank you so much. This was just a wonderful conversation.
Any opportunity to have a dialogue with Gene Pelham and Virginia is a great way to stay today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Gene, always a pleasure to learn from you every time we talk. I come away with a deep insight, so I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to have a voice. And even more so, thank you for allowing me to partner with those folks that were instrumental in my career success, like Troy. I look at all the times that Troy and I partnered together, whether it was the early days of the association or at Western Kingdom Management School on the board of trustees or with Go West. We've partnered together and with the same, I think you can see today, with the same intense desire to do right for the folks that we serve.
Well said, Gene. I made some notes during our conversation. Just over and over again, we heard about total return to the member. You know, that the way to measure success is there. You mentioned the place of truth. Troy mentioned storytelling, how important that is to really get the message across about how valuable a credit union can be to a young person's financial journey. And then finally, efficiencies. Efficiency is so important to be able to, of course, provide this change, both architecturally from a technology perspective, but also just from a marketing perspective, a strategy perspective, to think into the future. It's been a wonderful conversation. That's it for this episode of Leaders Give Back. If you've enjoyed today's discussion, make the Leaders Give Back podcast part of your routine. Share it with your colleagues. If you have any questions or topics that you would like for us to cover, reach out. We would love to hear from you. Thank you for listening. Until next time.